Welcome to the Paranormal Stakeout radio TV show with Larry Lawson. As a former career law enforcement officer and law enforcement educator, Larry focuses on the use of tried and true law enforcement investigative techniques in conducting paranormal investigations. Despite his experience and training, Larry also keeps an open mind to discussions on topics that deal with evidence that are not quite as physical in nature. Paranormal Stakeout guests are professionals in the field of the paranormal and parapsychology, conducting the investigations and research needed to further the cause of paranormal study. Larry advocates an agenda of standardization of structure and training in the field of paranormal investigation and research for the purpose of one day being able to produce the evidence needed to convince a jury of the existence of the paranormal. Whether it is ghosts, UFOs, unsolved mysteries, hauntings or cryptids, no topic is beyond the investigative reach of Larry Lawson and the Paranormal Stakeout radio TV show team. Now, here is the host of the Paranormal Stakeout radio TV show, Larry Lawson.
And hello, everyone. Welcome back to Paranormal Stakeout. I'm your host, Larry Lawson, coming to you from beautiful Vero Beach, Florida, via the X Zone Radio and TV Broadcast Network in beautiful St. Catharines, Ontario, Canada. So glad to have everybody back with me tonight. We've got a really interesting show. We're going across the pond, if you will, for this segment. And our guest tonight is coming to us from beautiful England. Steve Mera is an investigative researcher, author, and lecturer, and as well as a TV host with over 30 years of experience investigating, analyzing paranormal phenomenon, earth mysteries, cryptids, ghosts, UFOs, and all that is paranormal. He is initially trained as an electrical engineer, and has pursued the passion of investigating all types of events. He is the founder of the Cheshire UFO Group, and later led the Manchester's Aerial Phenomenon Investigation Team. And he also founded SEP, which stands for the Scientific Establishment of Parapsychology, as well as being involved in various organizations. And he also developed the British Investigators Training Course in Anomalous Phenomenon. He's a lecturer and writer with numerous media experiences. He's authored multiple books on the paranormal and UFO investigations, and has contributed to over 100 TV shows, including The Phenomenon Project and The Chronological History of UFOlogy. He also is the executive producer of several documentaries and TV series, and has been the spokesman for notable movies and TV shows. And he currently leads globally and co-hosts Project Doorway with Barry Fitzgerald. With that, I'd like to invite Steve Mera to the show. Welcome, Steve, to Paranormal Stakeout.
Thank you, Larry. It's a pleasure for being on.
Well, I thank you for joining us over there in beautiful England. I've been there several times myself, and I absolutely love the history. And it's funny, we look at history here in America, and to us, that's 1700s. For you, it's 1200, 1100. It goes.
Yeah. The UK is obviously probably the most haunted isle in the world, I would presume. I mean, I've traveled all over the world, but phenomena like hauntings and things seems to be the principal phenomena that's reported throughout the UK. But we do have our fair share of other things as well.
And that's where I kind of like to start. You've spent a lot of time studying UFOs and AUPs, and I note the Manchester Aerial Phenomenon Investigation Team, as well as the Cheshire UFO Group. Tell us a little bit about how you got there, and how you got started in this whole field after being trained as an electrical engineer.
Well, basically, I'm an experiencer, the bottom line. I've been experiencing phenomena since I was 7 years of age. So phenomena came knocking on my door, though that I did try and sort of just knuckle down and become an engineer like my father and grandfather. I worked as a contractor for NATO for a while, and but the phenomena kept dragging me back. So I started in 1983, and 42 years in now on this subject. And as time's gone on, I abandoned everything that I was taught by my mentors, which has dropped aside because it's been replaced by more current research experiments. And of course, I put an organization, first organization I was part of was Cheshire UFO Group, but I was only with it maybe for about a year. And then I took over MAPIT, which is Manchester Aerial Phenomena Investigation Team. It was run by a gentleman called David Rees, which started the organization in 1973. So I took over that in the late 80s. And then in 1996, I opened the Scientific Establishment of Parapsychology, which is it's not a public establishment. It's a private one, which deals with the phenomena in association with corporate companies, confidential cases, things like that. Did that for about 16 and a half years. Though SEP is still running, we conducted a series of specialized experiments in 2003 to 2014. And then after that, I was invited to, think tanks, international think tanks. I'm on 3 of them now, 4 actually, just a new one's just started. Where we are, I'm on there with other people. You probably recognize the names. We are trying our best to advance the subject of our understanding of what the complexities of this phenomenon represents. So, of course, from where I started to where I am now is vastly changed over the years. My opinions, beliefs, experiences, even involved with experiments which have taken place all around the world. And I do provide that information freely. I mean, I lecture internationally. I don't keep anything secretive. It's always out there. Best way to protect it is just put all the information out. And I believe in doing that so that we can gain a better understanding of what we're dealing with.
Now, when you're talking about the experiments and whatnot, are you focusing strictly on the UFO topic, or does that also include heading into other things such as ghosts and cryptids, that type of thing?
Well, when we talk about paranormal, we refer to paranormal mechanics, which is the experiments. Paranormal mechanics is tied in with NHID discussions, communications techniques, because there's psychic ramifications involved. People might say, well, why psychic ramifications involved with if we're dealing with extraterrestrial phenomena? Some of it can be enticed through esoteric practices, So there's a new area of study which is broke out now over the last 10 years, which looks at the aspects of the process of psionics, the process of communication with NHI, how consciousness is involved across all manner of phenomenon, and how the paranormal phenomena is tied in with the UAP phenomenon.
Okay.
It's all connective, has a connectivity.
How?
Okay.
What's your theory on how they're connected?
It's no theory. We know.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay, so let me give you an example. Yeah, I mean, there are multiple examples. When it came to a poltergeist infestation, we had an apport of a mug, a kitchen mug, which appeared about 90 minutes later in the middle of the living room carpet. It was an apport. The apport was taken away and analysed by microscopy. That's atomic microscopy, the 3 levels of it. And what it discovered was a very profound, unusual dithermic reaction in the mug. We'd seen this dithermic reaction before, and it was matched up and identified with the dithermic reactions in plant traumatology, which has been affected by the manifestation of a UFO close to ground that's affected the plants.
Okay.
So the manifestation of the UFO and the manifestation of the apport seemingly are utilizing the same physics. So that's just one connection. We have 108 now.
Oh my!
So as we go through, there are so many. I mean, we now know that the apport phenomena is utilized. The phenomena is utilizing the apports as quantum anchors. The deliverable of phenomena to the apport location. Experiments have been conducted in that area of relocating the apports. Phenomena temporarily relocates to the airport. So it's utilizing the airports as a quantum anchor in a sense of speaking. But we've also realized through the experiments and research carried out that the airports are mimic. The phenomena is replacing items which look the same, weigh the same, but they're not the same. And of course, we wouldn't know that. And of course, tracking people, when people have said to me that they've tried to get away from these disturbances by moving, or even out of the country to another country to try and evade the phenomena, it doesn't work. So you think, okay, well, how is the phenomena tracking individuals? And it is a very good argument to that the quantum apports could be as simply as something as a pair of spectacles that they're wearing, a ring on the finger, a necklace that they wear.
Now, excuse me, I got to ask you a quick question. Are you saying airport?
Apport.
Apport. Okay. Okay.
Apportation, the spontaneous arrival of an object, or the asportation, which is spontaneous disappearance.
Okay. So we know this is happening. You found the evidence of it in the analyzing the objects, but is it a dimensional issue? What? I don't know if I'm asking that question correctly. We know it's happening.
Do what the apports are you referring to?
Yes.
The apports have their materialization. They're a materialization. They're a physiological construct, just as UAP are physiological constructs. UAP are physiological constructs. We've got to get the idea is that people having these issues, that if we see it, therefore it's real. But it isn't. You see, what we're dealing with on both aspects here, which is kind of reference number 86, is that it's metaphysical phenomena. They're both metaphysical phenomena. All aspects of anomalous phenomena is metaphysical in nature. If you want to say about a ghost or an apparition, which are two different things, by the way, but if you talk about an apparition that comes through the wall and is able to prod you, well, how can it prod you if it doesn't have physicality and it came through the wall? It switched its metaphysicality. If we're talking about beings, the archetypes that enter into bedrooms at night during the alien abduction phenomena, as we referred to, they can seemingly walk right through a wall, descend from a ceiling, and then pick you up. So again, it's metaphysical. The UAP itself is metaphysical. This is why when going into water, there's no splashes, or there's no wakes. There's no wakes when they fly past aircraft at supersonic speeds. We're not, because we see it, but it's not physical in the sense that we know it. They can change the physicality of themselves. Sometimes it can be very physical. They can come down, land on the ground, leave landing marks, trace evidence behind, and interact, because the archetypes, these beings, is a way of interfacing with us. A ball of light can't interface with us very well. So we have the archetypes, which is up to around about 6,000 variations now.
Oh wow!
There's over 1 million UFO types.
Well, I want to get back to that in just a second. We've got to take our first break, and when we get back, I want to talk to you about how they get here. Okay, now, I understand what you're saying, but let's talk about how they get here. So stay with us, folks. I got Steve Mera from England. We'll be right back after these messages. And we're back with Steve Mera. Excuse me. Fascinating discussion. Now, we're talking about the manifestation of whether it be UFOs, ghosts, or apparitions, and I do want to get back to that differentiation there in just a few minutes. But where are they coming from and why? They're manifesting, but where are they coming from and why?
That's the ultimate question, isn't it, Larry? That everybody wants to answer. I can tell you from what I know from being up at these top levels and think tanks and stuff, is there's some things I can't say. There are some things I can. What I can say is that when we say where they're coming from, well, they've always been here. It's very unlikely we're dealing with an extraterrestrial source. I mean, the SETI astronomers have already put their report in, In fact, they said something quite interesting. They said that space is extremely quiet. And in fact, some scientists have reported that we're living in a quiet zone, so there doesn't seem to be much going on out there. We have NASA have come forward after conducting their research and concluded that, yes, they know UAP is real. They know that people are witnessing these recordings of these things, but they cannot conclude that it's extraterrestrial because they've not seen any evidence of it. Arrow, the Pentagon UFO program that was set at the time, also concluded exactly the same thing. No evidence that they're being extraterrestrial in nature. However, where the evidence does lie, which is the questions don't get asked, is that the phenomena lies back from thousands and thousands of years of interaction with humanity, guiding, interacting, agendas, all sorts of different things that they've seemingly been doing as far back as, well, before documented history. So maybe they've always been here. Maybe we're the new kids on the block. We don't know, but we've always been here. So this isn't a phenomenon that suddenly sort of just popped up in the 1940s, with Roswell, and that it goes back a very, very, very long time. And there's historical records of this, some of which is still kept quiet about the source material being identified. It's pretty much exactly as what we're experiencing in the 21st century. But the problem is that the phenomenon is evolving. It evolves with us. We evolve, it evolves. And the interaction changes, the mask changes, the process changes. I mean, look, if we to question, where's all the Space Brothers gone? I mean, where are they? They had their time. Prior to them, there was others. And if you go back and back and back and back, you'll end up with the reptilian beings, cave dwellers, crypto-terrestrials, all around the world, all the same story. We have now the grey. The grey is really, it didn't start with Betty and Barney Hill in 1961 because they weren't greys, but they were getting there slowly. And now the greys, and that seems to be the most onset sort of thing that's being reported by these different witnesses. What is interesting, though, is that, even though that the government might come out, US government, and say, look, we got 4 types of beings, which they have done. Which is ridiculous, really, because it doesn't take a genius to work out, when you look back through reported phenomena, there's thousands of these things, thousands of different variations, big, small, large, hairy, robotic, it's just, they are all archetypes that the phenomenon is presenting itself to interface with humanity. Because the scientists in 1969 were asked the questions, when we started pioneering space for the first time, what can we expect life to look like? I have this report. The best scientists in the world come back and said to NASA and other authorities, it's very unlikely you might even be able to identify life sources. And they'll tell you the reasons why. Is that we have analyzed and looked at other planets in our cosmic neighborhood, none of which are like Earth. Though that we might get some, like what they were listing as M planets back then, we might get some which might hold water, might have sustained some form of life, but the intelligence that was required to interact with us would require a number of things. So looking out into space and realizing, well, unique Earth is, and life on each planet is unique to that planet. So what they're basically saying is that microscopic change in a planet, its environment, its gravity, its heat, its pressure, its oxygens, its gases, whatever, causes massive change in life. If it even reaches to intelligent life, that is. We might be only talking microscopic, biological stuff. However, the phenomena we're presented with has 2 arms, 2 legs, a nose, a mouth. It's bipedal. They tend to be all bipedal. That bipedism is designed to work within our reality, our world, and interfacing with humanity. and everything it's faced with in its environment, which is designed for humanity. Feasibly, the scientists are shaking their heads and saying, it's impossible. There's no way. Can't have it. It's like a Star Trek episode. They're all bipedals. You know, I mean, they're all humans, really, in Star Trek with things on, but it's the same thing. So science is saying it's impossibility, and yet the mechanism is a method, seems to be the method of interfacing with humanity. It's designed to interface with us. That's why it has 2 arms, 2 legs, a nose, and a mouth.
Because they've always been here. Is that what I'm hearing?
Always been here. There's trace elements. We can go back so far back to the end of documentation. Now, religions around the world have adopted phenomena. Now, people might have different theories, what they represent. Some people say, oh, well, you know, I'm hearing a lot of this now at the minute. It's all demonic. It's all this. It's all that. I say, yeah, but the problem is it predates that. I mean, look, if you want to go to the Bible references didn't mention demonic or the devil. It mentions fallen angels. It mentions the fallen ones. It mentions Lucifer. It doesn't mention the devil and the demons and all the nasty things that they tend to do in life. That came later. That came later as the not just Catholicism, but other religions utilized it as a fearing mechanism to keep it order. And I get that. I understand that. But a lot of people want to jump to these conclusions. I knew about 2 years prior to the narrative change we were going to have it. We had to have the narrative change. We have to move away from extraterrestrials to interdimensionals. We have to move away from ETs to NHI, non-human intelligence. It doesn't fit anymore. It's the old bill. You know, now we've got to look into sort of quantum mechanics and that sort of those sorts of areas to gain answers.
So if this phenomenon is all things that have been here before, but they manifest themselves today, we're talking essentially time travel or time.
Well, I mean,
time is not is what we make it.
It's not linear. I mean, yeah, because, you know, if we want to get into it, I mean, where the information lies now is in quantum mechanics. And if you start looking into the aspects of that, the research, the work, I mean, I work with quantum analysts. It's not linear. I mean, it's, you know, it's past, present, and future is happening now.
Okay.
Always. So we're trying to wrap our head around the understanding of our reality. It's very, very difficult because genetically, we've been trained to only observe what we were supposed to observe. The reality that we experience is manufactured in our consciousness, not realism. Invading the reality and manipulating reality, phenomena can do. Phenomena can manipulate the fabric of our reality. It's an outsource coming in as opposed from within our reality and operative. So this is why we have references now at the top level referring to spiritual technology. We're talking about physicality of ethereal phenomena. If people can wrap their heads around that it can be both and it is one of the same, that's the start of the process of trying to understand the mechanism of the phenomenon.
Okay. You're familiar with Stephen Greer?
Oh, yes. Yeah.
His theory is that UFOs have been downed by us and we don't, but what we're seeing in the air is simply us, United States, Great Britain, whoever, reverse engineering these things. Do you see that as being accurate, or are we seeing something that is actually just going through space, the space-time continuum, and showing up here? What do you think that is?
Well, definitely some of these things have been brought down. Yes, for sure. However, most which are brought down are unoccupied. Most that are intentionally brought down. But they evolve, you know. I mean, when they are physical, yes, we can cause physical damage to them. Now, when it comes to the spiritual aspects of them, when they're not physical, we still have impacts taking place, or some of them blow up in the sky, parts fall off them, they plow themselves into the ground occasionally. These are all referred to at the top level as gifting fields. These are where the phenomenon is gifting. In other words, it sacrifices the biologics, if there are biologics in there, and it gifts technology because it wants to advance human technology. We wouldn't have got to the stars if it wasn't for NHI in the first place. Communications with literally every pioneering rocket scientist all over the world, getting downloads, getting direct voice phenomena, getting information in dreams and writing it down, getting the answers to the equations of how to get to space. We rely on them. And at the top level, the people are the pioneers in space industries now, NASA and other space agencies. They know that. I've talked with them. They know that. They consider these out. They have sponsors. The sponsors are them, as they might point up to the sky. They helped us get there. They're helping us do many different things, with telecommunications, with artificial intelligence, with fiber optic information, with the travels at the speed of light, and the information is light. We are and have had a helping hand, but that's because we've adopted a different method with dealing with NHI over the years, and now we have more partnership type programs going on in regarding information exchange.
But if these beings, grays, if you will, it's kind of hard for me to imagine that gray actually originated on Earth, if I'm hearing you correctly. Are they coming from the past to help us with our future? Or are they coming from the future back to us to help move us forward?
All right. Well, first thing off is that they're not gray. We call them gray.
Right.
Yeah? You might perceive them to be gray, but they're not gray. In fact, they're archetypes. They're anything that you might fix to your imagination. In fact, we've done studies and cases. You got a 12-year-old girl who's been abducted by the phenomena. She's been abducted since she was 7 years of age. At first, she saw an animated teddy bear. It wasn't an animated teddy bear. We're not being invaded by animated teddy bears. It was an animated teddy bear for her. They were naive to come back. They were naive enough to come back 10 years later when she's not 17 anymore. She's 17, and she wasn't going to swallow that pill. She was not going to believe an animated teddy bear is walking into her bedroom. No, it didn't work. It failed. And what happened is that the archetype changed before her very eyes into something more appropriate. This is what we're dealing with. We're dealing with archetypes. And that is, it picks out in your information. If you think, the most popular hypothesis is the gray, it will appear as the gray.
So it's how we perceive it. With that, when we come back after this next break, I want to start delving deeper into communication practices with NIH and psionics. So folks, stay with us. I'm with Steve Mera. Don't go away. We'll be right back after these messages. And we are back with my guest today, Steve Mera. As I said before, fascinating discussion. And I really am intrigued with the fact that what we're seeing is what our own mind basically is making up, how we want to see it, how we're comfortable in seeing it, how we can experience it without sending us into a psychological storm because we don't understand what we're seeing. I find that very fascinating. So to discuss with these entities, whatever time they're coming from, what are the current ways to communicate? How do we talk with these people, these entities?
Well, firstly, I'd advise never to talk with them.
Okay. Fair.
Yeah, that's my best advice for anybody unless you really know how to deal with safety protocols. And a lot of people out there are attempting to do so without the safety protocols, and it doesn't always end well. Now, I'm not saying that they have a bad agenda.
What are those safety protocols? What can you give an example?
Well, safety protocols is overindulgence for a start. I mean, the problem is that there's a hook in the end of the phenomena where it gets under your skin. If it does, it's going to hitchhike. It's going to go back home with you. Some of it is mild. Some of it can trace right through your family, affect your family, your parents, your loved ones, your children. can be infected in a genetic manner of association with this phenomena. We know this now. We can take the measurement of interaction and see the effects on the human brain. We know that it's damaging the cortex putamen, but at the end of the day, it's not just ufology. It's extreme paranormal phenomena. It's anything that's creating a significant perception alteration, which causes the brain to scar. We know this now. Everything has been a deception in regarding what we might think, but that's what the phenomena represents, is what we might think it to be. It's looking for ways to interface with us. Those interfacing methods have changed over the years. Now in the 21st century, it's become comfortable with one particular method because that's what people think it mostly resembles. These type of methodology of these crafts, they're coming down, they have occupants. I'll tell you, the crafts are the phenomena as well as the occupants. It's all linked together, and we perceive them as to interact with us in a physical manner. And what we don't realize is what's happening to us during experiences, that we lose our discernment. So we've got it measured to 20 seconds now, using special flow bands that go onto the head and measure the brainwave activity at the time of your experience. We know that we slip out of normal conscious state into theta, which is a manipulative state, straight away. That the phenomena is Bluetooth pairing with us, in a sense of speaking. It's called the conscious connection. And what we're realizing is that because we have better equipment, that we couldn't take a machine or out to measure our brainwave activity. Now we can do it with a cell phone. We can see the effects on the human brain, on the human psychological aspects of things during these encounters, and we know how we can be manipulated. Our perceptions, our feelings, even euphoric feelings. People say, "Oh, it's euphoric," but then you don't realize that you've just been flooded with endorphins at the time of the experience. So we're actually breaking it down and starting to look at the mechanism of the phenomenon as opposed to what the end result is.
Okay. One of the biggest problems in the paranormal field is, everybody's got fancy pieces of equipment with lots of lights and buzzers and stuff like that, and really has not progressed at all in providing evidence. But I hear you're talking about having that type of equipment that can measure.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. You don't have it in the domain that much. Yeah.
What is that equipment? What do you use to measure this phenomenon?
Well, some things, Larry, are just as easy as anything else that you might see on the market, but it's been used in the wrong way. Okay. People use. I mean, for instance, if people go out with something as simple as an EMF meter, that tends to be the most golden thing that people take out with them. I would only use a tri-field meter. I wouldn't use any of the other ones because they're easily affected. Some of them are affected by transmissions from walkie-talkies, believe it or not. But you use a top-end tri-field meter. These aren't ghost detectors. They're not picking up paranormal phenomena. What they are picking up is a gravitational disturbance, because the presence of phenomena in our environment causes a rip, causes a tear, and it creates gravitational wells. The gravitational wells, the little spikes in gravitational anomalies, are picked up as EMF. And that's what we're reading. We're reading the effects in the environment. People kind of got to get their heads around a little bit about some of this. We've got DT meters, time displacement meters now. We know that we have latencies in time where manifestations are taking place, not just in the paranormal aspect, not just in the cryptozoological phenomena, but also in the ufological phenomena as well. We know that with the specialized equipment that we've got now, that we're getting proper readings from scientific work. We're not just it's a hypothesis of, oh, well, maybe it's causing this. We know what they're doing. We know how it ticks. The thing is that how do we counter it? How do we measure it properly? How do we experience it safely? These are the principles that we're trying to deal with at the moment, because things are unmanaged a lot in regarding scientific endeavors.
So when you collect this data, we've now put on the table here, time means nothing. Past, present, future, all is in one existence.
Yeah.
What we're seeing UFO wise, ghost wise, even cryptid wise, are all manifestations from our past, or maybe
Well,
even the future.
they're physiological constructs. They have different agendas. I mean, some cryptids are just there to generate fear. They're fear-feeding parasite, just a physical aspect, a bit like the poltergeist film, a physical aspect of it. Some of them you're led to believe, well, they're a living, breathing creature. Well, yes, and they leave trace evidence. Well, it's no different than anything in the paranormal field or ufological field. You know, they are when they want to be, but they're not when they want to be. You know, people have reported right across how these things can just fade away, or can be cloak themselves, or turn into a ball of light and fly off.
So they're just returning to their own dimensional space?
You know, yeah, whatever this intelligence are, we know that from studies carried out, 3 years study carried out, that there seems to be what has been recognized as a single source. Now, we don't know what that source is. We don't, I mean, some people might want to call it God. I don't know. But we don't know what the source is. But all the data says every type of anomalistic phenomena that's taken place over the last 5,000 years to current times is all interlinked. You could say, well, how do we find all the interlinks? I said, there's so many of them. The sulfur smell across ufology, paranormal, demological, cryptozoological stuff. You know, the connectivity is massive, so much so that all the data looks for is pattern recognition. The pattern recognition tells us there is a single source. It's managing to interact with us in multiple fashions, different ways, different methods, different masks. Be it a cryptid, be it a strange creature you can't identify, a Mothman with red glowing eyes, a chupacabra with red glowing eyes, the Virginia aliens with red glowing eyes. Call it what you will. They have these mechanisms of change for interacting in various different ways for their reasons only. Be honest with you. Some of them are medical, some of them are educational, fear techniques, learning about how we respond to fear. Lots of different mechanisms are being utilized on planet Earth against humanity.
This is a significant advancement that I don't think people know about, that they don't understand that it has been identified where this is coming from. I grant you, from what I'm hearing, you don't know who. You're not suggesting a singular power, correct?
Well, all the data says there is a source. I don't know if you want to refer to that as a singular power.
Okay.
But if it's all connected, then what's behind it all? It seems that something has been interfacing with humanity for thousands and thousands of years. As time's gone on, it first presented itself as deities, various different types of gods, and of course perceived them to be. Many times it took the mask of animals, be it a deer, be it a bird, be it an owl, be it a fox, be it whatever. You know, these things have appeared to be different things, to walk amongst humanity. They don't need to sort of pretend to be us to be here. They can simply just hijack consciousness if they wanted to. We know that.
Well, and you've got the data. You've had the data that shows this. How come this has not been presented globally? How come we still have folks running around with EMF meters in supposed haunted locations? It sounds like you've got the answer.
Well, no, we haven't. We actually, we're far away from it, believe it or not.
Okay.
Because every time we think we're nearing to it, the phenomenon evolves. It's watchers. What do they call it? The watchers, because it interfaces with us when during our experiments. It's one step ahead always. It's monitoring us. Even when we came to the point where can we ask NHI 10 questions? The phenomena would come out from the ceiling, direct voice phenomena, not male, not female. It was like electronic, assumably, because they don't have vocal cords. And we asked next session, can we ask 10 questions? The answer was yes, we can. So we went away and we decided to think very hard about the 10 questions we're going to ask. We went back and those answers were delivered to us straight away before we even asked the questions. They know, they watch, they learn, and they can read us. They know what we're thinking. They know we can't trick them. They're miles ahead.
But when you say they hear us, they know what we're thinking. That denotes to me that there is a an entity.
There is a they. There is a they.
There is a they. Are they in control of the cryptids, the Mothmans, the Jersey Devils?
I would say the evidence. I would say, Larry, the evidence supports that. The fact is that it's not that they're in control. It is all the thing. It is the same mechanism. It's at play.
Well, then I go back to my original question. Then, how come this information? How come this data that links all of these isn't more widely known?
Well, there's a session of information that's been put out slowly.
Okay. From where?
I can't tell you that. I can't tell you that. What I can say is that it's slowly put out. There are a number of people. People might make reference to what's coming, such as it's indigestible, and they'll say all these other things. It's actually magic and all that. Yeah, because they don't know the words to describe it. We haven't got the words to describe it. What we can say is that there are certain parties, the scientific establishment of parapsychology, are heavily involved behind the scenes, but it's not public domain because we've got to be very careful about the deliverance to the public. It's got to be in small, digestible chunks. We cannot throw all this out because we're going to scare the scientists away. That was informed to me at the high end when I asked the questions about when people are talking about transmedium capabilities of UFOs. They fly in the sky, they fly in the water, they fly in space. When I pop in the question, well, where's the fourth? It's quad medium capabilities. It always has been. They can fly into mountains, they can fly into volcanoes, they can come out the land, come out of a tree, they can manifest these crafts. They looked at me and said, we can't tell the public that. I said, why? Because we will scare the scientists away that are helping us at this moment in time. We cannot drop this information onto physicists' knees, the laps, and say, there you go, your physics is wrong. Now, the problem is that you only got to talk with Eric Davis, a very well-known physicist that's worked on, specialized programs for the government. And he's turned around and said, when it comes to European studies, we don't really use physicists. Well, that's why. Because it doesn't make sense. We don't need a physicist. In fact, you probably gain more from a parapsychologist or a spiritualist, but not a physicist, because it doesn't work.
Well, I've got a ton more questions, but we've got to take our last break. So, folks, stay with us. Great conversation. Don't go away. We'll be back after these messages. And welcome back, everyone, with my guest, Steve Mera. I want to take a second to let you know that if you want to find out more about me and my operation, my group, please visit us at our website at www.indianriverhauntings.com. You can also get us on Facebook at Indian River Hauntings or the Florida Bureau of Paranormal Investigation. And should you want to check out some of our videos, go to the @ Indian River Hauntings 2341. And I would be remiss without saying, if you want to see some other great programming, go to xzbn.net and see all the great programming here on the X-Zone Radio and Television Broadcast Network. Great shows on here. And Steve, if folks want to spend some time learning more about your work, where would they find you?
Well, most people would just Google me because I'm pretty much all over the internet. Google my name, Steve Mera, M-E-R-A. But I do have my own YouTube channel where I share information I'm allowed to share, of course, which is Steve Mera Official 2024. And you can find my YouTube channel where I'm sharing different project information that we're working on. Project Doorway, Project Enigma, Phenomena Project, linked in with the skull experiments, advanced skull experiments. You can find data there, for me. But most people can just find me by Googling me on the internet.
Terrific. You're talking about so much of the aerial phenomenon, for example, that is actually ancient technology or has been here for years, and brings to mind a show here in the U.S. You may see it over there, that they're in the western part of this country, and they believe they have found evidence inside a huge, a mountain, basically a mesa, they call it.
Yeah, the mesa. I know, I've been there.
Yeah. Okay. Oh, you've been to that place, huh? Okay. And they've actually pulled out debris or materials that are almost in the future, and but they're dating thousands of years back.
Yes.
Kind of puts in perspective what you're saying.
Well, that material's all over the planet.
Interesting. Now, but you, once again, we keep talking about they and how they're trying to get a hold of us, and then we also are talking about those above you that are saying, not all this can go out because we're going to scare folks, or we're going to. Who's that on top? Is this a government?
Well, when I was doing when I spent so much time in the research experiments, we started documenting stuff ourselves,
Mm-hmm.
and that was when I caught the eye from the American government, and I had to go on a special phone call with them. I wasn't allowed to see them. I wasn't allowed to directly interact with these. There was a third party that was involved in transitioning their questions to me and my answers to them. They were referred to as the Advanced Working Party, people who work for the US government, people who are retired. If you ever do retire from certain aspects of the American government is a question. Wanting to know about, the first questions were that, have I worked for the CIA? Have I worked with the NSA? And I said, no. Have I worked for MI5, MI6, the Ministry of Defense in the UK? I said, no. Asked me about certain questions. He said, have you had any conversations with Kit Green, who's a specialist in the studies of UAP and other things? I said no. They wanted to know where certain bouts of information we obtained, and I explained to them that we gathered the data through years of research and experiments. And we have an understanding, but I was kind of, you could say, taken into the folding regarding specialized think tanks, which I would never join a think tank if I knew that the information would never come out, because my whole point of my working is to advance the subject. I mean, the latest team I'm working with is the Scientific Worldwide Anomaly Research Mission, SWARM. Recognizable names on there, and we're looking at a lot of different things. The aspects of what is referred to as the E8 lattice, the interaction from what is referred to as non-human intelligence all around us. Just because we don't see it doesn't mean it's not there. And now we know how to find it through quantum imaging, and we can see them. And we can see constructs which wouldn't normally see. We know there's a lot more to reality than that meets the eye. And we are trying to work with we're linked in with the DOD, and also certain places I can't say now. I'm not allowed to say. But we are working with other people in trying to work out what some of this represents.
Well, let me ask you a question. I know that one of your premises here is it can't come out because it will scare the masses.
Not necessarily. It has to be delivered in the right way. It can't just be thrown out.
And I think we're seeing that now with what's happening with the Pentagon and some of the things they're letting out, whether or not you believe what they're putting out or not. But let me ask you a question. Is there a possibility that some of these folks that you're talking about don't want this to get out because, quite frankly, that's how they get their funding? If it gets out and people know, then the mystery is solved.
Yeah, there's always a problem regarding funding. This is why that we tend to fund ourselves a lot, or get donations to do so, because we do not want to fall under a controlling factor. I think everybody, to be honest, I work with, even people which are still working for three-letter departments, yes, they want it out, but it has to be done in a deliverable way, because it's going to tip the balance on our understanding of religion. That's probably the first thing. Then the economy, the global economy, and the power change. This is what we've referred to as a class of unmanageable systems. We've got to look at each one of those systems and say, how do we make it manageable? And by doing that, that's a lot of work, how to do that. So how do you do it? Do you train people? Do you eat? Do you drip feed them to steer them? And if that's the case, then we're talking a 60-year program. So it's not going to be in our lifetime.
Well, I would agree with that. And there just seems to be so much out there right now. It's almost like the cat's out of the bag. Let's just be honest with it.
Well, that's exactly what they wanted. I knew it was coming. I mean, the whole point of doing this is to bring us up to that next level. but we're still 10 levels away, Larry. We still got to get there. But what we know now, yes, it's better than where we were for the last 80 years. We now know UAP are real. We now know comfortably it's not the it's not the conversation who's like an elephant in the room anymore. You know, you can have a comfortable conversation about this.
That's true.
But we've also got 60%, which is adversary, and they won't tell you that. The drone wars started taking place in 2014. It sounds like a Star Wars film, but it's true, and it's still going on. And we are misidentifying this with the true phenomena.
I want to change gears just a little bit here, because this gets me thinking about folks that consider themselves mediums. They can talk to the other side. What is your opinion of somebody that has that gift, that ability to talk with the other side, and they channel the other side?
Well, we've worked with a number of specialists, which we refer to as catalysts, and these are phenomenal, absolutely unimaginable what their capabilities are. There are a number of people like this that we've come across, and though that the certain government programs want to utilize people like this for the more traditional psionic programs, because of the paperwork and the secrecy levels, they would prefer to work with children. So they're trying to sort of make an effort to push for children who have abilities. But it's a very questionable area of study, should be utilizing children. And of course, many people communicate with a barrage of all sorts of different intelligences that they might consider. But they're interacting individually. So the information that we perceive to get from these sources are variant, deceptive in nature, or truthful sometimes. That's the problem. It's just like trying to deal with the US government. You know, half of it's going to be misinformation, the other half will be true. This is the NHI do the same. Look, they don't want to disclose. They've never wanted to disclose themselves. If they wanted to, they could have done it any day. Could happen this afternoon. It'd be all over, Larry. They don't want to.
You're talking about the other side. The other side does not want to.
The other side does not want to. Forget the US government. Forget any of the governments around the world. The phenomena doesn't want to do that.
Then when a medium gets information, let's just say they're doing a reading and a loved one comes through, is that all poppycock?
No. This is what is called as the transpositional triangle phenomena. The transpositional triangle phenomenon is that the source is the source, and the individual who's the medium is acquainted with the source, because that's where they're obtaining their information from. If you ask them where they're tapping their information from, where they're getting it, the ethereal plane, the pool of consciousness, call it what you will. It's the source. The source lies between the reader and the person who's come to get the reading. The phenomena obtains the data from the person who's come from the reading, because it can get any bit of information from them, and delivers it to the person who is the psychic or medium. And that relays your triangle. Position.
This person that lived on this earth passed away. They've just gone to another dimension and exist as they existed before, and that's how they.
Right. Well, the problem is that I've had many discussions in circles about this. Is that we have to understand about the non-physicality of the spiritual self. Our consciousness is something different. Our consciousness can also be hijacked. Our consciousness can be utilized by other sources. It's not our physical selves. If we pass over and we go somewhere, we transition. It's a separate thing. It's like splitting from soul and spirit, in a sense of speaking.
But how does that translate into the time as everything is now? How does that translate into that?
Well, it translates, because when we pass over, it doesn't exist. The time.
Okay.
That's non-existent. It is for us, because we're traveling linearly through space, creating a time system, so recognizing what that time represent means to us, but it doesn't really matter. It doesn't mean anything in the transitional ethereal side, should we say.
So this goes back to something you mentioned earlier. I've been wanting to ask you about it. Ghost versus apparition. What's the difference?
Well, a ghost is a figure of a person. An
Uh-huh.
apparition can be a ghostly train, a ghostly, a
Okay.
ghost ship, a ghost train, a ghost
I see
cat,
what you're
ghost dog. An
I see what
apparition
you're
is an
saying.
apparition. Ghost is a figure. Could be a full
Okay.
torso floating apparition or not, you know.
Well, and this is a question that's going to open up all kinds of doors. We may not have a chance to finish it, but so I pass, I move on to the next plane. There's many people that feel that we come back. Reincarnation would be the term. But if my spirit stays with me, or my soul, whatever you want to call it, goes on, and I'm just in another plane, because time is open, there is no time, that everything's linear. How do you explain somebody coming back? How do you explain reincarnation, I guess is the what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, the aspects of reincarnation, the cycle of life. Well, everything is a cycle. The whole universe is a cycle. Every life form on this planet is a cycle. Every plant life is on a cycle. You know, so why shouldn't we fall into the same mechanism? Yes, energy is transferable. We know that. It can't just be broken down. It has to be used. And there's a transference of us. But the difference is the split. It's a split from our conscious to from our physical selves, the spirit and the soul. Yeah. Now, when we're dealing with what we refer to as spirit, if we were to have sessions and communicate with something that is believed to be a past relative, how do we know that we're dealing with that past relative? How do we know we're not dealing with the consciousness of that relationship, of that individual, not themselves? There is a difference.
And as you say, that is the question that we seek to answer. And unfortunately, we've run out of time, and I could go on for hours. But I hope we can chat again. I hope you'll come back sometime.
Yes, absolutely, Larry. I'd love to.
I'd like to continue this conversation. And everybody out there, thank you so much for joining us today on Paranormal Stakeout with my guest, Stephen Mera. I want to remind everybody to please take time to love your family, give your kids a hug. And we will see you on the next episode. And until then, please stay safe, and we will see all of you on the other side. Thanks for joining us today.